It's an honor to be here with you all today. And for those who don't know me and what I'm all about, if you don't leave with your mind blown, if you don't leave feeling empowered about all that you can do to take back control of your eyes and brains from this new screen time pandemic, then clearly I'm doing something seriously wrong here today. So my name is Dr. Bryce Applebaum, and I am on a mission to change the way the world views vision. For each and every one of you, that change starts right now. First, a little bit about me, so you know where that I come from and know that I'm not making any of this stuff up here. I'm a neuro-optometrist, board certified in vision therapy and rehabilitation. I've been in private practice for a decade and a half or so, but truthfully, I've been in this space for almost 35 years. And I'll explain that math in just a little bit here. I've been interviewed on a dozen podcasts and media outlets in the last 6 months alone, including Chris Kresser's Revolution Health, Wellness Mama, Mind Body Green, and even was fortunate enough to be interviewed by CBS on how screen time is the new pandemic, where that interview alone received 44 million views in the first week alone. And I recently received the prestigious Future of Health Award, which for exactly really what we're talking about here tonight. I work with professional and collegiate sports teams, Olympians, hundreds of athletes in every sport imaginable, and tens of thousands of patients in my private practice. I share all of this because whether it's facilitating the appropriate visual development, rehabilitating the brain post-concussion, or enhancing our eye-brain-body coordination, I eat, sleep, breathe, and just exude unlocking life's potential through vision. So you're going to leave here today with some nuggets, and not these types of nuggets because clearly this is virtual and I can't pass around any dipping sauces, so nobody wants any of that, but rather nuggets that will allow you to do three things. Number one, directly improve the quality of your visual system with actionable take-homes today. Number two, set up a plan of attack for screens. And number three, really challenge everything you know about vision. And I promise on top of that, we're also going to have some fun here today. So let's start by taking a poll of the audience here, because it's always smart to read the room, right? So I would love everyone to look into the chat here and click on the button, find the button that says raise a hand. And I'm going to ask some questions. If the question I ask applies to you, I want you to click on that raise a hand button. So who in this room today gets motion sick? And if that's you, just click the raise the hand button. There we go. Who in this room here avoids reading? Who in here uses reading as a sleeping pill at night? Who has avoided ball sports and maybe even struggles catching a ball? Who has tired eyes after staring at their computer for too long? I hope so, because that's why we're here today, and that's a lot of hands are going up. So if this wasn't you, I'd ask, why are we even hanging out together tonight? Who here knows somebody with a lazy eye? Who here has trouble maintaining eye contact at times? Who, as a child or has a child, where every night there were tears with homework and frustrations? Who has a child who loves to read but hates really reading on their own? If you could see my screen right now, the Zoom link's freaking out a little bit, but that's because there's so many of you raising your hands. This is a problem. You may be asking yourselves, what do all these symptoms and all these problems have in common? Well, I'll tell you, they all have a visual component that is either the cause or at least an underlying contributing cause of the problem, all of which are entirely treatable through retraining the brain. You can unclick and lower your hands, or I guess, or not. It doesn't really change anything here. But I'm blessed because for a living, I change lives. And for so many of you in this room, and for the vast majority of the patients I work with, my work is the missing piece that you really never knew you needed. Vision problems are everywhere, but they're hidden until you know what to look for. And then they're no longer hidden once they're right in front of your face. And after today, you're going to know what to look for, and you're going to learn how to prevent so much unnecessary struggling because you can identify hidden or functional vision problems. Healthcare really has it all wrong about the eyes. Most doctors are solely focused on the pursuit of 20/20 eyesight, but eyesight and vision are separate entities, and we need to be treating them as such. Eyesight really refers to how well you can see, whether that's letters on a letter chart in an eye exam, the street signs when you're driving, or what the teacher writes on the board in the classroom. Vision, on the other hand, is far more complex. Vision is how our eyes move together and converge and track and focus and process information, and really how we derive meaning from the world around us and then direct the appropriate action. Eyesight really is glasses. Vision we should be thinking of as brain, and vision problems are brain problems. And I'm here today to tell you that there is a fix for these brain problems through something called vision therapy, a treatment designed to rewire the software of the brain to change how somebody takes in the world around them and processes visual information. Speaking of processing visual information, what do you see here? Type into the chat for me if there's something that you feel like you see in this picture. Leaves? Okay. What else we got? A black hole? Lots of different things. What if you lean all the way back away from your computer screen? Or the opposite. What if you try and really lean in and get really close to the screen? Try providing yourself with a different perspective. Oh, there we go. Fatima says a cow. All right, that seems like the right answer here. Nicely done. Who sees the cow in this picture? Some of you? Maybe? Let me give you a little bit of help here. And now with that outline, you kind of can't not see the cow, right? So if we go backwards, now it's right there in front of you because you got a frame of reference, a place to look for. We have functional MRIs that can isolate the areas of our brains responsible for these aha moments that show us when the visual centers communicate with the other processing centers of our brain and highlight these neuronal connections. And this ability to change your perspective, to alter how you visually take in the world, it comes through development of vision, and it comes from learning from our life experiences. We're not born with this, and rather we learn how to use our eyes together. We learn how to see the world from different perspectives. We learn how to shift and see the big picture, the forests, not just the trees. We learn how to see the background along with the figure. These skills are acquired through human development, and they can be taught, and they can be trained, and they can be enhanced, and they can even be reestablished if they're lost in some form of acquired brain injury. If we can influence how someone sees, if we can alter how someone processes visual information, we can change visual behavior and ultimately change overall behavior. Pretty profound if you think about how this can extend to so many different aspects of life. So I want to share a story with you all here today. And this is a story from when I was back in first grade. That's me right here. So I can remember this fall afternoon where I was on the soccer field at Carteret Springs Elementary School. And my team was playing the Purple People Eaters. And there's this moment that I can recall as if, honestly, it were yesterday, where I'm the lone defender on the field, and there's these three attackers on a breakaway, and it's just them, me, and the goal behind me. And I completely freeze as if my legs are stuck in quicksand, and these guys just blow past me and easily score. And I remember feeling completely lost in space and afraid and helpless as I let my teammates down, essentially giving away the goal to the other team. Now, at the time, I had these visual developmental delays. So what that meant was I had trouble focusing my eyes. I had really poor, undeveloped depth perception, and my eyes didn't work together well as a team, really causing me to freeze in moments where I should have sprung into action. That night at the dinner table, I had a complete breakdown where it all came pouring out in tears. And I shared how with my parents, how I didn't know what to do on the field or where to be, and how in the classroom, I couldn't see what the teacher was writing on the board, often having to ask my friends for help or, even walk up to the front of the classroom and pretend to sharpen my pencil on those old school pencil sharpeners. Remember those that you turn to sneak a peek at what the teacher was writing? And I worked really hard in school, but I was a reluctant reader, often flying through other subjects like math to try and make up for my deficiencies with reading. Because of my vision, I had negative confidence and felt like a turtle retreating to my shell with so many aspects of life. Now, fortunately, I was born to the perfect parents. My father was a developmental optometrist. My mother was an occupational therapist. And it wasn't really until this breakdown that they put the pieces together. And from that point forward, they put a plan of action in place to help facilitate the necessary visual development for me to help me really soar in life. So over the next few years, I did consistent vision therapy and sensory integration-based occupational therapy every week. And really, because of the consistent nature of the treatment that I received, it all really came together in about the 4th grade or so, when my eyes, my brain, my body finally started working together and this confidence emerged. I became a really strong athlete. I started to enjoy reading. I even developed interpersonal communication skills because I understood my sense of self and space that much more confidently. And I really turned this disability into a strength where I could rely on vision and gain an advantage in the world. So I continued with these therapies, and over time have obviously transitioned from patient to clinician, where now for decades I've been studying and evolving vision therapy in terms of innovations and technological applications and practices and protocols to really help get vision therapy to where it is today. And I'm happy to report that we can now accomplish in a matter of months what was done for me in years, including for those who have been misdiagnosed with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, and other learning differences. And I help those with lazy eyes and eye turns avoid the need for surgery, even develop depth perception for the first time so that they can get their life back on track and turn weaknesses and deficits into strengths or superpowers. And I also help those who've suffered concussions, and students, whether that's a student who's had a head injury returning back to learning, whether it's an adult trying to return to work, ultimately helping anyone return to the life that they love. And I also help those who have their heads buried in screens and phones and tech-driven devices who are experiencing all of these symptoms like eye strain, headaches, blurry vision, or even environmentally induced nearsightedness. More on this, I promise to come. So you see, I'm on a mission, and I'm here so that others don't have to struggle the way that I did. And now my focus is to constantly refine the standard practices of vision therapy to make it more accessible, while also continuing to innovate and be on the leading edge of new technologies, therapies, and practices so that our field can become more efficient, accessible, and sustainable. All right, so we're going to highlight 3 main areas of life today that can be dramatically improved with vision therapy. The first, reading, learning, and academics. Vision is our dominant sensory system, and it's estimated that over 80% of what's learned in the classroom comes from the visual processing of information. And sadly, 1 in 10 kids has a vision problem significant enough to impact learning. When children haven't developed the visual skills necessary to support these visual demands, they experience symptoms like losing their place with reading, whether that's skipping words or skipping lines, words going into and out of focus and becoming blurry, sometimes even double, and difficulty copying off the board in the classroom. And of course, trouble focusing. And so often in the medical world, labels like ADD, ADHD, and dyslexia are so quick to just be slapped on these behaviors when in fact these are hidden functional vision problems. And to make matters worse, this problem has been exacerbated by the fact that our children are being exposed to technology and screens earlier than ever before, and being asked to read at earlier and earlier ages before they're visually ready. If you know a child who hates to read, who struggles in school, who's squirmy with desk work, chances are they have a vision problem, and one that's probably treatable through vision therapy. I would love to share a story with you about a 10-year-old I worked with named Megan. When I first met Megan, she was a reluctant reader and already was developing a negative association with school early on. She was having to use her finger to keep her place when she was reading. Words were dancing around all over the page. And she really struggled keeping her attention centered on reading and writing tasks. In the classroom, Megan had difficulty copying off the board, often was moving her body and her whole head around with desk work, and she had trouble staying focused on what was being asked of her. After concerns were raised by her teacher and her inability to stay on task, the pediatrician started the discussion about ADHD and possible intervention with medication. This never seemed to make sense to Megan's parents, who shared that she loved to be read to, but often avoided reading on her own, and that she could focus on her tablet and play video games for hours without being distracted at all. And while she was starting to struggle in school, her parents knew how bright she was, but that she was not achieving at her potential. After only a few short months of vision therapy, Megan started picking up books on her own. And there were far less tears with homework, and the resistance to go to school started to disappear. Her teacher even commented that she could now self-regulate at her desk and attend to her classwork without really being distracted. There were no longer discussions about medications being needed to help Megan focus, and most importantly, Megan became a happier kid. Megan's previously hidden functional vision problems were eliminated with vision therapy, which really ended up being the missing piece to her puzzle. All right, the second area that we're going to highlight is concussion and traumatic brain injury. There are more areas of our brains dedicated to processing vision than all of the other senses combined. And 2/3 of the neurons entering the brain actually originate from the eyes. So if you think about it, it's kind of impossible to have a brain injury and not have vision be impacted. It's just a matter of at what level. And suddenly, previously normal activities of daily life, like going to the mall or the grocery store or Costco, can become completely visually overwhelming because the brain can't process all of that sensory input that's coming at it. And reading and engaging with screens can elicit dizziness and blurred vision and nausea. With vision therapy, we can literally rewire the brain to change how somebody uses their vision and establish order from all of this disorder. And with the right work, motivation, compliance, almost every concussion can return to previous level of function and return to learn and return to life. So I want to tell you a little bit about somebody named Lisa, who is a 48-year-old that started working with us after she was in a minor fender bender car accident that had pretty major implications on her day-to-day life. Lisa suffered a concussion, and all of a sudden, shopping for her family's needs and navigating a busy store just simply wasn't possible. Her brain couldn't process all of that input, and as an elementary school teacher, her classroom that she previously had complete control over was now setting her into a constant state of fight or flight. She was having to look away after only a few short minutes when she was reading and engaging with screens due to this terrible dizziness and vertigo. In working with us in our signature Concussion Clear program, and after an intensive few weeks of treatment, she was able to get back to her intricate lesson planning on her computer. She got back to editing her papers and multitasking in her classroom. She found herself finally able to be in a car without becoming motion sick, and could really scroll through her phone without feeling dizzy again, and could even chase after her own kids on the weekends without feeling exhausted. Lisa was able to find her pre-car accident self, and her students got their patient and supportive teacher back from before the car accident. All right, finally, the good stuff, the third area of life that I want to discuss, and the one that is clearly the most important today because it impacts literally every single one of us. And those are vision challenges related to screen time. Can you believe this? The average American spends 7 hours and 4 minutes looking at a screen each day. That's average. Average meaning there's plenty of people who spend a lot more time than that. During the pandemic, many of us, including myself, found ourselves spending more time than ever in front of digital devices. And now screens are literally everywhere, and they've become the new normal, taking over work and learning and grocery shopping and dating and buying new clothes and honestly, even talking with your next door neighbor. But for so many of us, this is creating these symptoms such as headaches and eye strain and blurry vision, trouble focusing our eyes, dry eyes, light sensitivity, disrupted sleep. The list goes on and on. If you can think back to when we were all kids, and even as recently as the early 2000s, all we did was spend time outside, whether that was playing ball, riding bikes, climbing in the woods. All we wanted to do was be outdoors. And it wasn't really until it was dark out or until your mom started yelling at you to come in for dinner that we would come in. Fast forward to where we are today, it's literally the complete opposite. Instead of being dragged inside, parents are literally having to drag their kids outside, away from these screens and technology and away from social media and out of the dungeons that is their basements, playing video games and doing God knows what else is down there. We live in a digital world where screens and technology are anywhere that you turn. And screens present very unique visual demands that often make the eyes and the brain work much harder and much differently than when engaging with three-dimensional space. And viewing a digital device presents very diverse challenges in comparison to reading a printed page. Now, I've listed a bunch here, and I'm going to highlight a few of these. But in particular, there are different eye movements required on screens compared to print. There's more of them, they're more sporadic, they're less organized, they're less methodically across the page compared to when you're holding a book in your arms and you get the tactile feedback of where that page is in space and where to look and where to aim your eyes. Two-dimensional versus three-dimensional, that's a thing. Not to mention the high energy light and the brightness and the high contrast and the glare and the blue light that's being blasted from the screen. And the blue light, man, blue light's getting all the attention these days, isn't it? I've been saying it's kind of like the new gluten. That's all anybody's talking about. We could do an entire lecture on blue light, and this isn't the time or the place for that. But what I will say is blue light isn't bad for you. It's actually really good for you and essential to human life. It's needed. It helps regulate mood and alertness and circadian rhythms. We need blue light. We need natural blue light, and that's, and the blue light that's found from the sun, which is why it's so great to get outside first thing in the morning and get fresh sunlight to really regulate our circadian rhythms. But blue light that's being blasted to our eyes and brains for 7 hours and 4 minutes or longer, all day, every day, that's the problem. We have these specialized cells in the back of our eyes and our retina, whose sole responsibility is to respond to light, to signal this sleep-wake signaling mechanism that releases melatonin in our brains. When these cells are overstimulated, that suppresses the release of melatonin, and it can contribute to headaches and migraines. And we now have pretty compelling evidence that circadian rhythm disruption may be a driving force behind metabolic disorders and even cancers. Dry eye. Did you know the average person blinks about 15 times a minute? And that when we're on screens, that number drops to about 3 to 5 times a minute? That literally causes our tears, the front surface of our eyes and the windshield wiper fluid that clears the windshield, to be produced in a very different consistency than what is considered normal. And without getting too in the weeds here, there's 3 different layers to our tear film. The outer layer is this mucin layer. And the watery layer, when our eyes are dry and when we're not blinking, the brain sends a signal to release more tears, and it releases more of the watery layer, which actually allows your own tears to drain faster, to evaporate more quickly, and to cause the brain to send the signal to then release more tears, causing all of this inflammatory reaction and inflammation within the lids and sometimes even within the body. We even have ICD-10 diagnoses now for computer vision syndrome and dry eye syndrome that weren't even around not too long ago. Myopia. We're all hearing about myopia these days. There's an article that came out today in the Times about myopia, how it's increasing at such an alarming rate, especially for countries that value technology and education. When we landed on the moon in like 1970-ish, about a fourth of Americans were nearsighted. Myopia is the medical term for nearsightedness, by the way, where far away is blurrier than it is up close. Now that number is in the mid to upper 40s, so 44 to 46%, depending on where you read. And it's estimated that by 2050, 50% of the world, not just America, 50% of the world is going to be nearsightedness. That's a problem. And nearsightedness is based off of two main factors: genetics and lifestyle. Genetics we can't really control a whole lot about, but I will say if two parents today were to have a child and both parents were nearsighted, their child would have a 1 in 2 chance of being nearsighted. If one parent was nearsighted, their child would have a 1 in 3 chance. And if neither parent was nearsighted, the child would have a 1 in 4 chance. And the reason for that is because of environment and because of lifestyle. And we know that prolonged near visual stress, so reading and on screens for extended periods of time, and poor lighting levels, doing those activities in the dark, and insufficient time outdoors are the three main risk factors that contribute to nearsightedness and the progression of nearsightedness. You know, glasses prescriptions constantly changing, that's a problem. And when myopia continues to progress, it causes health problems and structural problems to the eyes. My colleagues often treat the symptoms and ignore the problem. And instead of being reactive, or usually reactive rather than being proactive, which means the problem up close is this near visual stress, not having the focusing system in place to support these demands. And the symptom is far away gets blurry. The muscle has difficulty maintaining flexibility. Did you know that if your glasses prescription is changing every year, that's a problem? That's a sign of a functional vision problem. If we can address the root cause, if we can handle the visual stress associated with screens and with reading, then the distance blur no longer is an option, at least at that time. Whether this is your new setup with work or your children's who are coming out of the womb literally with iPads already glued to their faces, many of us are faced with this new visual stress where we may not have developed the visual skills and abilities necessary to support these demands. And many of us are simply just not visually ready to be staring at screens. And yet many of us are simply accepting these symptoms that come with this, even though this really doesn't have to be the case. I want to tell you about somebody named Mike, a working dad who had 2 young kids, who was spending all day on his computer as his job transitioned to being entirely virtual during the pandemic. Mike's eyes felt tired and strained, and he would struggle just to get through his morning and make it to lunchtime where he could get up and take a break from the screen. His head would start hurting mid-morning like clockwork, and he found that he would often schedule important meetings only in the mornings to avoid the brain fog and fatigue that would come by the end of the day. He found that he was in this vicious cycle where far away would start to become blurry, and then he'd go to the eye doctor, and then surprise, surprise, glasses prescription got stronger, and he just kept increasing and getting new glasses way too frequently. Mike was even purposely reading at bedtime, almost to be able to fall asleep faster. We had the opportunity to work with Mike, and in a few short weeks, he learned how to eliminate these symptoms of visual stress and get back to his energetic and productive self. He can now function like when he was working in an office setting, interacting with people and managing, and can now manage all the crazy new screen time in his life. He even reversed a lot of the recent increases in his glasses prescriptions by establishing better flexibility and stamina with his focusing system. Mike never knew any of this was possible, and he now has the visual foundation in place to thrive in this digital environment that really is his new normal. Mike was able to offset the negative influences that tech devices had on his eyes and brain through all of his work with Vision First. All right, but before I continue here, I want to take a moment to pause, breathe a little bit, and ask you a few questions. Are you guys getting this? Are you seeing how vision therapy or vision training could literally be the missing link that you never knew existed? We just went over the 3 areas of life that can be dramatically improved through vision therapy and vision training. First, reading and learning. Second, concussion and brain injury recovery. And third, screen-induced health challenges. If you see how this could help you or someone you know and love, please put a 1 or a 2 or a 3 in the chat and tell me what resonates with you the most. Is it 1, the reading and learning? Is it 2, the concussion and brain injury recovery? Or is it 3, the screen-induced health challenges? Would love to hear what's hitting home for you all. And I hope you see the connection to the impact that vision therapy and vision training can have on your life. I like that there's a lot of threes here. All right, next question. Before we transition into Q&A, are you cool if I take 10, 15 minutes and share with you a special, unique program, one that's one of a kind that I put together to help combat and overcome the increased demands and stresses that screens are putting on our health? Give me a yes or an emoji or a high five or something in the comments here if you'd like me to share what I personally created to combat this for my own family and to really scale beyond just those that I can see in my office. Guys, I already know this stuff. I talk this all day, every day at my office. So like, if you don't want to hear about it, that's totally cool. No biggie. I can just jump straight to questions. We go straight to Q&A. But I'd really love to share this stuff with you, but really only if you want to hear it. So yeah, let me know. Thank you for letting me know. All right, awesome. Let's jump into this then. So screen use has been on the incline for decades. That's really nothing new. But 2020 was very different because it brought out the use of screens for so many aspects of life, but really catapulted screens into learning. And for our children, this is severely impacting development, not only cognitively, emotionally, socially, but really visually as well. And as a concerned parent, and one that became exponentially more concerned in the early weeks of the pandemic, I was shocked to see the negative effects that excessive screen time was having on my children's visual systems and overall well-being. I remember this particular Sunday afternoon in March of 2020, where I looked across the room and saw all three of my young kids with their heads buried in their tablets. My stomach literally dropped. With my background as a functional eye doctor, we were clearly not a house that supported screen use at such young ages, and yet here they were, compulsively engaged with the screens for school and for homework and playtime and for entertainment. And this is when the light bulb really went off in my head. For my kids and really for the entire world, screens aren't going anywhere. And they're going to continue to become a bigger and bigger problem unless we do something to counter or even slow down the negative influences that these devices are having on our eyes and on our brains. We were on the verge of a whole new pandemic, and one that was really unfolding right before our eyes. And at that moment, I was faced really with two choices. The first, to keep the status quo, continue to do what I've always done and deliver the gold standard of vision therapy and help improve and change lives, but also always with that nagging feeling that I know there's that many more people who can be helped with this. Or option two, really do something that's never been done before. Do something that my colleagues don't agree with. Do something that's risky. Risk being ostracized, risk being criticized, risk changing the gold standard. And that was really creating a new, unique program for man and womankind and bringing it into the world. And that was the birth of ScreenFit. So if you suffer from headaches, tired eyes, fatigue, lack of energy, neck or back pain, if you can't wait to close the monitor after back-to-back Zoom calls, or even right now, you can't wait for me to finish talking so we can look away from these screens, then ScreenFit is for you. It is for exactly these reasons that we created a revolutionary online vision training program to help minimize the damage of screens to vision. ScreenFit is essentially a vision wellness program, and one that's designed to help reduce symptoms and really promote healthy visual habits during extended screen time. We have created an unparalleled curriculum focusing on the practical applications of various vision lessons that really anyone can do to change their vision, not just their eyesight, their vision, so that they can develop the visual foundation to thrive in this digital world. So with ScreenFit, the first course is called ScreenFit Vision Foundations. It's phase one. There's 30 practical videos, 30 lessons that each should take at most 10 to 15 minutes per day to finish, with each printable worksheets that you can print off. That really helps you consciously improve all the fundamental visual skills and abilities necessary to engage with screens. So that's tracking and eye jumping, that's eye focusing, that's eye coordination, and really so much more. Now, if you were to spend an intensive in my office for a few weeks, from out of state, out of country, even locally, going through these vision exercises and much more, you could be investing upwards of $10,000 or more. And that's not just from me, but really any functional vision expert that really knows what they're doing and can deliver high-level results. Not to mention the airfare, the travel, the hotel, the other expenses that could be involved here. Listen, I've spent decades learning, fine-tuning, crafting these fundamentals, and really pushing the cutting-edge protocols, and spent thousands of hours working with patients refining these exercises and the sequencing of learning necessary that get results. If all this did was help your child learn to read better, would that be worth it? If all this did would help you overcome your concussion and actually be able to shop at the grocery store again, would that be worth it? If all this did was help you be more productive at work without hitting that afternoon wall, or you could actually increase your earning potential or even be a more present parent, would that be worth it? Now you can see why valuing this at a fraction of my time would be something that would be pretty helpful. And you could see that valuing this at, even less than that would be something that would be pretty helpful as well. But why valuing this, as an investment for just $1,000, well, that is well worth it. So what you're going to get inside ScreenFit is part 1, Vision Foundations, which is phase 1, valued at $1,000. Part 2 is phase 2, the Vision Stamina course, where we have 30 new videos that, again, shouldn't take more than 10 to 15 minutes to complete. We have the printable worksheets for off-screen reminders, and we have really the course to help make all of what you're learning automatic and unconscious and efficient. Vision Stamina course valued at $1,000. So what you're going to get inside of ScreenFit with these two, that would be $2,000. So inside here, Vision Foundations is number 1. Vision Stamina is course 2. But the other thing we're going to do here, and this is unique, we've never done this before, is we're going to also provide you with 3, not 1, but 3 group coaching sessions that are really high impact. We're going to go dive deep on one topic and even allow for Q&A at the end, so that, so that's 3 additional Q&A sessions on top of the courses, where we'll cover special topics. The first being entirely on visual ergonomics, how to set up your computer screen and your workstation for success. The second, all about blue light and the digital performance lenses and what can be done to help support all this blue light that's being blasted from screens. And the third, supplementation training, so that we can learn about exactly what's needed to give our brain high levels of what it needs to be optimized. Again, I've spent years of researching the right tools, the right techniques, the right supplements, and really the right therapeutic prescriptions and setup and glasses. The environmental impacts all around our vision to support optimal digital performance. And if you're to go learn these things on your own, it would cost you thousands of dollars and thousands of hours. And I want to save all that for you, but you can see why that's a steal valued at $1,500. So what you're going to get inside ScreenFit now is phase 1, Vision Foundations, phase 2, Vision Stamina, and part 3, which we've never done before, this 3 high impact group coaching sessions for a total value of $3,500. Now, if all this did was eliminate those nagging symptoms by the end of the day, would this be worth it? If all this did was help make you more productive throughout your workday, like Sarah, would this be worth it? If all this did was help allow you to thrive in the digital world like Mike, would this be worth it? You can see why this is an amazing deal at $3,500. If you're to go buy this, though, at full price today to the general public, it would be $794. But because I just spent a weekend with my family at Disney and celebrated my oldest kid's 9th birthdays, they're twins, that's why there's 2 of them, I'm feeling really generous. And because you've hung out with me this long during all of this, and because we really want to get this out to as many people as possible, and we know that we can have a lasting impact on you and those that you love most, it's not going to cost the $3,500. It's not going to cost the $794. And it's not going to even cost you $500. For one small investment of $297 today, you can start your journey. You can start on improving your vision and taking that first step towards a healthier, happier digital lifestyle. You can say goodbye to annoying symptoms and hello to a brighter, more comfortable screen time experience and actually see results in just a week. Now, for substantial vision problems, office-based vision therapy, that's still the gold standard. That will never change. But this can help get the ball rolling at a minimum, for as crazy as this sounds, for pretty much everyone at every age. We've had someone as young as 5 years old go through ScreenFit, and as old as 89 years old go through ScreenFit, both successfully, with literally every single person enrolled so far seeing a reduction in symptoms. And there's been pretty high volume that's gone through this program. Now, you have 2 choices. The first, keep doing what you're doing, accept the status quo, tell yourself that you're just having a birthday every year and that all these annoying things that come with getting older and screen time, that's just the way that life is. Or the second option, make a relatively small investment in you, an investment in your health, an investment in your vision, the most dominant sensory system that we have, and really an investment in your future. Now, one of the most common questions I get is, so you're talking about more screen time to treat screen time. That seems a little counterintuitive. And I know that's why we've designed these lessons to be as compact and impactful as possible. With these short, interactive, and powerful protocols and tutorials, we literally limit the amount of time that you're staring at your device or that you're at your screen. And with the printable companion resources, you can return to the exercises without having to go back to your screen. And you can literally do these almost anywhere during your day. You can do them at work, in between calls, at the stoplight, in the bathroom. These will become part of your daily routine. We know the value of exercise and we know the value of working out our bodies. Why are we not working out our eyes and exercising our brains? And with this program, because it's so user-friendly and so easy to navigate, this is something that is totally doable for anyone with any lifestyle. And remember, with each course, you'll be guided through 1 new vision lesson per day. That shouldn't be taking anywhere, it should take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes per day to complete. And you don't have to do them every day. Ideally, we recommend about 4 to 5 times a week. So this could extend, as much as 6 weeks even, or longer, depending on how quickly you're doing these. But you'll learn how to relieve the stresses that technology places on our visual system, empowering you with the tools to support healthy visual habits and the efficient use of the eyes as a coordinated team. So that 6-week program I mentioned, that's just for course 1. We also have course 2 as well. So that's a total of, it could be, as much as 12 weeks to get this done, and literally being a completely different place by then. So again, the gold standard is office-based vision therapy for substantial, big-time vision problems, but that's not always possible, and that's not always accessible for a lot of people. So that's why this is created. That's why this is so powerful. And I want to share with you an example of just one simple exercise offered in ScreenFit, so that you can get a taste of how easy this is and really help guide you to where you deserve to be. So we're all going to try this together. The one we're going to do is called a near-far focus. So what I want you to do is cover up your eye with a hand, pick whichever eye you'd like. You want to locate an object that's in the distance, about 30 feet or so away. And I want you to find a near target as well. It can be your finger, but also it can be a pen or pencil. And I want you to look at that pen or pencil or that finger, bring it as close to you as you can, where you can still make it clear. And once it gets a little blurry, stop, and then that's as close as you go. And I want you to look at that tip of that pen or pencil and make it as clear as you can for 5 seconds. And think about how you're stimulating your focus, you're looking hard, you're looking close. And then when you're ready, you're going to relax your focus. You're going to look through all the way out into the distance. You're going to throw your focus as far out as you can and relax it. And you're going to look soft and you're going to engage periphery. And then for 5 seconds out there, then you come back to this pencil up close for 5 seconds and back out to the distance for 5 seconds. So this is really doing push-ups essentially with the focusing system, the inside muscles of our eyes responsible for clarity. Why don't you try the same thing with the other eye? And many of you are going to notice that that point in which you can make this clear, or where it first starts to get blurry, you realize that was at a different place than with the other eye. Many of us focus our eyes at different planes. And again, that's not normal, but that's because of this binocular rivalry or competition that we often have over sensory input, where our brain doesn't want to use both eyes together. So it essentially picks one and it focuses or uses one closer and the other one farther, so that there's a little bit more wiggle room there. With both eyes open, you would never notice that. You would just be essentially unconsciously picking an eye and suppress or ignoring the other eye. But that's really a root cause of so many symptoms. So you'll notice the more you do something like this near far focus activity, the closer those images will be able to be and the more equalized they'll be. So there's less of that competition between each eye's information. So that's just a taste of something that's in there. We have lots of different unique types of activities in there as well. So what we're going to offer now also is a special bonus for the first 10 people today to register for ScreenFit. We're going to offer an additional exclusive Q&A video session, and you'll get all your questions answered. We're also going to offer a really nice ebook that we have with bonus exercises in there as well. So you can see the link on the bottom, www.screenfit.com/getvision, or you can scan the QR code here. And just to kind of remind everybody what's in here, what you're going to get inside ScreenFit is phase 1, Vision Foundations, phase 2, Vision Stamina, part 3, the 3 group coaching calls, and then for the first 10 people to sign up, an exclusive Q&A session and the ebook that's exclusive here just for those people who are eager. Total value of $4,000, and remember, we're getting this for a steal at $297. So I know that each and every one of you here today, after listening to this, has at least one name in mind, other than yourself maybe, where you've now realized that vision is the missing piece to their puzzle. And you were really excused before all this because you didn't know that help existed. But now that you know, you have a responsibility to act. Please don't let your friends, your family, your loved ones struggle unnecessarily in life because of hidden or misdiagnosed vision problems. I'm officially lighting a fire under all of you. Please help me go spread the word. All right, so we have some time here for Q&A. And I know there's been some questions that have been popping in the chat here. We're going to go through a lot of these, and I'm definitely going to be cognizant of everybody's time. I want to make sure that we are not getting to bed too late. And this is not good to be at screens this late because our circadian rhythms are being disrupted here. So hit us with your questions, and I will answer as many of these as we can. All right, what can we do to combat blue light? Great question. So right when the pandemic hit, there was blue light glasses being sold all over the place. Amazon had them for $1. The dollar store had them. Remember, blue light's not bad for us, but blue light that is protected throughout the day, especially on screens, is really helpful for us. So any pair of glasses, if it blocks, let's say 433 nanometers, can be considered blue light glasses. But really, the good quality blue light glasses, the glasses you want to invest in, are the ones that block a very large, wide range of light. And so, when you go to an eye doctor and you're ordering glasses and you're asking for the blue light filters, there's lots of different tiers. This is an investment you want to make in the highest tier because it's the most protective. But there's also specific glasses to help improve digital performance, which have the right combination of magnification or prism, or really what's going to allow performance to be improved as much as possible. So on top of blue light glasses on screens, we can click on the night shift mode on certain Apple products. We can adjust contrast. We can adjust brightness. I always recommend bring it down to 0 and then slowly increase it until you find kind of that sweet spot, at least for contrast and brightness. For most people, it's between like 40 and 65%. And another great thing we can do to combat blue light would be to really eliminate screens after dinner time at the latest, but I usually recommend 4 or 5 o'clock if we can. And if we are on them, absolutely have those blue light glasses and filters glued to your eyes so that your brain can filter and contend with that high energy, low wavelength light. So hopefully that's helpful there. But we will also be having our second Q&A session all about blue light, and we're going to dive deep on a lot more than just that. All right, we have another question here. How much time should we be letting our kids spend on screens? Great question. The simple answer is as little as possible, but having 3 kids myself, I know we have to pick our battles. So first and foremost, always balance at least as much time as being spent on screens with at least that same amount of time outdoors, hopefully more. We know that light outside, we know that exploring the distance, we know that getting away from dark visual stress and extended near work helps prevent myopia, at least, or helps make it so that it doesn't progress as quickly. But we want to limit screens as much as we can. So I usually say if a child is less than 18 months old, let's say, not more than a half hour a day, and really only for high quality, high level interaction. So maybe that's FaceTiming with a loved one, or maybe that's talking to a friend, or doing some sort of content rich work, but that would be at the absolute most. From 18 months to about 2 years old, we should be doing not more than 45 minutes at the most. I usually say under 5 years old, less than an hour a day. And I know the American Academy of Pediatrics says 5 and older, not more than 2 hours a day. That's a lot. And so really with any screen time for kids or for adults, I want to be really practicing good visual hygiene and taking lots of breaks. So I always recommend the 20-20-20 rule, which basically means not spending more than 20 minutes on a screen without taking a break for at least 20 seconds and looking at something 20 feet away. So kind of resting, relaxing the eyes, disengaging the visual system, hopefully getting up, walking around, getting a movement break, and then coming back. But rule of thumb would be, the larger the screen, the better. That's the farther away as possible, the better. And, that's something that we really want to limit as much of that as we can. If everybody here could do me a favor and make a fist with your hand here, if you were to squeeze your fist and hold it pretty tightly, after about 5-10 seconds, your hand starts to hurt. But if you were to let go and open and close, you could almost do this indefinitely. So we've been talking a lot about our focusing system. Our focusing muscles are behind our pupil, and they're the inside muscles responsible for keeping things clear and for clarity. That muscle is a sphincter muscle. It's a circular muscle. So literally when we're looking close and when we're on a screen, the pupil gets smaller because the muscle is contracted and the muscle itself is locked in. Every time we look away, it's relaxed. Every time we look close, it gets tight. And so maintaining flexibility there, not just being stuck at one plane for an extended period of time, that's really, really beneficial. And if we've talked a lot about visual stress today as well, when we're under stress, our brain really has 2 options. We can avoid or we can adapt. Well, people aren't avoiding screens because of all the dopamine hits that come from that and all that we're trying to get out of what's being presented from screens. But the adaptations, really the vast majority of vision problems are maladaptations. And they're treatable, but they're also avoidable if we have the right habits in place and are mindful with what we're doing. Next question is about fluorescent lights and how that affects vision. Great question. So especially for those who are suffering from head injuries and concussions, fluorescent lights are literally the devil. And when you go to grocery stores or Target and you see these flickering, flashing lights, that's really, your brain getting these sudden impulses from the lights. And we all have a something called a critical flicker frequency. We have a frequency that we're able to notice and a threshold where it starts to impact us. For people who are very sensitive to small visual changes, they notice even the highest frequency that are flashing very quickly. For people who don't have a whole lot of sensitivity, they notice ones that are flashing very slowly but isn't really impacting them that much. But in general, fluorescent lights can be very disruptive and it can elicit symptoms. So if you're in public, one thing that can be really helpful is if you wear a hat or a visor that blocks a lot of from the ceiling, and so that can almost act as a protective barrier. Sunglasses also help with that as well, but definitely switching out lighting as often as you can to much more calm, natural lighting. That's kind of the ideal scenario. Next question we have here, can this program help reduce your near or farsightedness, i.e. reduce your prescription from a -6 to, let's say, a -4? Love this question. So if we rewind to what we were talking about nearsightedness and myopia and prescriptions changing, our eyes often elongate and change shape as we're adapting to the near visual demands of life. But once we're done growing as humans, our eyes really shouldn't still be growing as well. Yet prescriptions increase because, again, very often we're adapting to the lens we're in. That's our new normal. We're then needing something stronger to maintain that same clarity. And then we're going down this vicious cycle where in most eye exams, the doctor's saying what's better, 1 or 2, what's clearer. First of all, there's no real answer to those questions. It's asking about preference, but really we should be all seeking 20 happy vision rather than HD vision, 20/20 vision. Not everybody has to see the same. Not everybody does see the same. So to me, the optimal prescription for anybody is the weakest lens possible that gives the most improvement, that's the most balance between each eye. If we take, let's say, blood pressure as an example, if our blood pressure gets to its target values with a 100 milligram pill, but it also gets there with a 10 milligram pill, I want to use the 10 milligram pill. I want to rely as little as possible on medications or other means because it's not necessarily needed. Same thing with glasses. If a -6 prescription allows you to see the smallest letters, but so too does a -4, to me, all day, every day, we go with the -4 because that's going to make up close have more wiggle room and have more flexibility, because if it's super clear out there, it's going to be that much extra effort up close to make things clear and keep them clear. So yes, this program does a lot to allow the inside and outside muscles of the eyes to work in better synergy. Outside muscles being where eyes are pointing. That's our kind of the what system that allows us to know how to make something single and perceive it where it is in space. Inside muscles are for focus. That's making something clear that lets us know what something is. The where and the what, if they're providing the brain with the same feedback, we can make something single and clear. So we've had many patients go through, or non-patients, many people go through ScreenFit and say that not only did they not need stronger glasses, but they were seeing clear with the glasses that they are in. And we've had many go through this as well who found that they've gone back to their eye doctors and actually needed weaker lenses. So, it matters where you are in life, and it matters, whether you're at the point where your inside muscles of the eyes become more rigid and less flexible. That sometimes happens, well, it definitely happens with age, but very often if we stop using them, we lose voluntary control of them. We can counter a lot of what happens with age with active, mindful exercises to help establish much better stamina and flexibility with these systems. On top of that, The farsightedness is essentially saying that somebody has to use their focusing system at every distance, not just up close when most people have to. And I would say for people who are farsighted as well, absolutely, this can help improve quality of eyesight as well as vision. And so the two go hand in hand. When vision improves, very often eyesight improves as well. I will say this will not affect the prescription in a negative way. It'll allow you just to be more comfortable with what you're in. And in cases where, things have been increasing a lot, this can very often draw a line in the sand and actually improve things, but it's definitely no way to make things worse. And we've done a lot of quality control with our initial large beta test, but then even with all the data we're gathering with all the people enrolled in this, to show that really there's the sequence of learning and the sequence of programming is such that it can't embed bad habits or make things worse, essentially. Let's do maybe one or two more here so that we can be mindful and respectful of people's time. Is watching screens like a television or bigger screens different than watching computers or phones? And does Netflix at the end of the day count as screen time? Unfortunately, Netflix at any time of the day on any device counts as screen time. But I would say definitely the bigger the screen, the farther away, the better. And the eye movements and the visual skills necessary for far away screens compared to up close screens are very different. Up close is when our eyes have to converge and we have to pull our eyes in to make something single, and our focusing system is turned on. In the distance, our eyes in their natural resting position. So there's a different visual demand, but absolutely there is still a visual demand. So there are really good quality filters and tints and blue light glasses and lots of different types of protective coatings we can put on lenses to be able to engage with screens far away. I've got glasses that I wear if Netflix is on in the evening, and if it's on, it's only on the television far away. And although the glasses are reddish orangish and they're very specific wavelength and very specific glasses, I'm happy to share these with anybody privately if they want to know about them. That makes it so that my brain is not highly active like it would be if it was just being blasted with all this light. And there's even really good data and studies that talk about even sleep habits now being much easier to fall asleep and stay asleep if you're in pitch black, and if you don't have lights from the clocks blasting or lights from windows coming in or lights from other rooms coming in. The darker the room, the colder the room. There's a lot that you can do to hack your sleep if needed. So thank you all so much for being on this, and I so appreciate all of your time here. This has been a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of information here. I look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you on the Q&A calls, and looking forward to all of you taking this first step towards healthier and happier vision. And it takes work, it takes compliance, but it's easy. And once you see the results, once you see an improvement, it's hard not to keep going. So good luck to everybody, and talk to you all soon. And again, thank you so much for your time and your attention and this opportunity tonight.